Hello, good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another NerdTube Star Trek episode review. We're talking about Prodigy, Season 2, Episodes 15 and 16, Ascension, Parts 1 and 2. I'm Major Rage. I'm joined by my fellow Trekkies in Arms, Zam, to my right. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you. And this was the episode that really made me feel like we're in the end game now.
Yep, it this I felt like could have been a season finale almost, with
Mm.
the kind of level of action and everything going on. Um, but yeah, lots to dive into this week for sure. And below us, but not beneath us, is Cousin Cheeto. How are you, sir?
Doing good. Can't wait to talk about this episode.
Excellent. Um, so yeah, it's a lot to talk about this week. We can start off with just some general impressions. I kind of went a little bit into that. I felt they were pretty enjoyable. Zam, what are your overall impressions of this week's episodes?
Great pacing, great surprises. Um, One-upmanship from the bad guys, without any resolution. It was really good. It was good. Some good character moments as well. Like subtle ones from people like Pog and Zero, but you could see it as well. And another thing I was thinking of is that we're going to be getting a Starfleet Academy show, but this almost feels like a Starfleet Academy show to a degree, with all these young cadets, learning the ropes and all of that. Obviously, they're not in academy, but they're still rookies, and we're following these rookies around. So that was also cool. And at the same time, I felt that it was a coming of age moment for a lot of them. In this episode, like they were really having to, you know, represent Starfleet. And yeah, it was just a great couple of episodes. I look forward to talking about it in detail.
Excellent. And I agree with a lot of what you said there. Really great character moments. Uh, and I agree this could be looked at as one part Starfleet Academy type show and one part a Voyager sequel. Um,
Mm.
so, Cousin Cheeto, your overall thoughts?
I really enjoyed these episodes. Lots of pew pews, lots of action, and we got fighters, not shuttles. And I know they called them shuttles, but they are fighters. And in Star Trek, we don't have fighters. It always drives me nuts that we never have fighters. Now we have fighter. Well, we have in this episode, at least these episodes, we have fighters. I'm very, very happy that they finally did what Orville did so well in their third
Yep.
season and introduced fighters. And we need to keep it going. There needs to be more fighters. It can't just be, oh, these were experimental and they're not they're shuttlecraft. They weren't shuttlecraft. They were fighters. Like, call them what they are. I love it when they said they were shuttlecrafts, and like they're like, no. You guys don't beat around the bush. They're fighter craft. I loved every second of it.
No, the
I just
second Murph went pew 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 pew. I'm like, oh well, this has been full of pew pews for Cheeto.
If I could just add to what Cheeto was saying, I totally agree with him. Because Starfleet themselves, as much as they want to be this exploring sort of like faction, the fact is that they are constantly getting themselves into lots of battles, and so regardless of the fact that they want to be explorers, they need to have vehicles of sort that can help them in a fight, and I'm glad that we got it. It's about time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean the biggest disappointment was Discovery season two's finale, where you had this massive space battle with shuttlecraft, and it's like they should really just be fighters, but they can't do it
Mhm.
because there weren't fighters around at that point. And that's what. And as I said, I'm glad they stuck to canon. We're like, okay, well, we don't have fighters, but I guess we can use shuttlecrafts. But it's like this is the reason you need fighters, because fighters work. There are practical uses for scouting for fighters, and I get it. Like, if you have a ship that's like, okay, this is more of a military mission, so we're going to have fighters on board, or this is an exploration mission, which you should still have fighters, but you more have shuttlecrafts and transports on board. Still, you've got replicators. Replicate yourself some fighters if you feel like you're going to be in a combat
Mhm.
situation.
Yeah, we have the vehicle replicators now a thing in canon in lore, so vehicle replicate up a couple of Nova flyers designed
Right?
by Lieutenant Paris.
Yeah,
And
I was gonna say that, designed by Paris. That's
I liked
awesome.
that little. That was a nice little nod.
Mhm.
One of my favorite characters, honestly.
I have
But
to. I didn't feel. Was there like a steering in the ship? I couldn't remember.
yeah, there like a not a like a joystick, you mean?
Or a joystick,
like
but
a flight
something
yoke.
something physical you can hold, because
Yeah,
usually
they
when
were. There was
yeah,
an
but,
actual like joystick in there that they were using.
okay, fair enough.
Yeah,
Because
no, it never made any sense for me when like you know they're if you're flying in combat situation, like that's why in Insurrection I get it, it was cheesy for the Enterprise to have a joystick, but it's like
Mhm.
it kind of makes sense if you need to, like, you know. And I think we even talked about Travis having his own like little joystick
Mhm.
that he could control the ship with when he needs to make, like, you know, he can't just make, like, you know, big hand course corrections is what I call them. You know, you just need small hand course corrections.
Yeah, and I'm happy for that, but I have no problem with them having to press buttons to steer the ship. But when it comes to like tactical battles and
Hmm.
stuff like that in your own little sort of craft, yeah, I'm glad they got steering sticks or something along those lines. Yeah, and obviously that is what makes it a Paris vehicle, in my opinion, as well.
No, it's like the Delta Flyer had. You need the flight stick. I agree.
Hmm.
Um, so
Hello,
did
fellas.
Sorry, I just got done sharing, so I was going to hit the comments. Did you already bring them up? Rick B says 1,000,000 shuttlecrafts in the Enterprise are not canon. It's more new Trek bollocks. Okay, thank you so much for your generic input, Rick B. And Jim Landscape says hello.
Hello, Jimmy.
All right.
so one of the major plot points this episode was Dahl's involvement with the Nova Squadron kids, which, you know, began with Majel inviting him to, you know, train with them on the holodeck, but culminated with them saving the day together in part two. Him flying with them and kind of earning their respect, and I feel like finally, you know, kind of finding a spot where he fits in. Um, I know that.
Yeah, we spoke about that last time, didn't we? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
where does he belong? And at one point, I'm thinking security, but because he himself is not by the book, he wouldn't be good for security. So I think now we've had this spot, you know, a fighter
Oh
pilot.
yeah.
He's a good fit for it for sure.
As
Um,
I have to say, Dal in this episode, I really liked. I know. I'm pretty sure hell froze over. The devil's
no, that's
outside
it.
my door saying, like, man, it's cold down there. But I actually liked Dal in this episode. I like the fact that he was not a child. He was like, look, time for me to step up, time for us to do this. And I mean, even though he didn't quite fit in, but that's the point, is that he was kind of thrown into this position and they all still made it work.
Yeah, and I feel like, to his credit, he didn't try to fit in. He was a more subdued version of himself. You know, he tries a fist bump with them. He's still dull, but he's also being respectful. He's acknowledging that he doesn't know as much as them. He says he wants to learn from them. I feel like if they don't backpedal on this, we might actually see some consistent development out of the character, and I feel like that'd be a good service for the character.
But that is a big if.
he,
It's a
he
very
didn't try
big
to.
if they don't roll it back.
He didn't try to take charge.
No.
He was part of the team, not in
Mhm.
charge of the team. So yeah, it was a good arc for him in this episode for sure.
Another aspect of the Nova Squadron sequences, they are trying to pull off the Boothby supernova maneuver. Did you guys catch that?
Mhm.
Nod to the
No, I'm
caretaker.
afraid not. I know that one went over my head. The Boothby supernova.
Yep, it's some sort of maneuver nobody's ever pulled off, and of course they pull it off and save the day with it at the end, because it wouldn't be
Yeah.
a good.
I thought that was a bit cringe, only because it's like, like, oh, nobody's ever pulled it off, like, I would have almost much rather them been like, hey, we invented this maneuver that no one's ever done before. But like them saying, oh, no one's ever pulled it off, and then they pull it off, you know, at the last second, or not the last second, but you know what I mean, like pull it off in this scenario. It's like, okay, so what happens to all the people who don't ever pull it off? You know, like they're all dead, or just like
nobody's ever pulled it off because she just came up with it and they've been training for it. Maybe.
Yeah, my
that's what I mean.
Was when Major went, well, what we have to do is, it's logical to not be logical. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like,
that was a big like that's where that child humor kind of crept in again, where I was like, and as I said, I didn't mind it because it wasn't like all over the place in these episodes. Like it was very like balls to the wall, and that's what I appreciated about it. Is there was genuine dread in this episode. Like I was seriously sitting there thinking, how the heck are they going to get out of this situation? Like that's insane. Like that, that Narada looking thing came through, and I'm like, oh, we're doing this. We're doing Kelvin. Okay. like like a Kelvin type
exactly.
scenario.
Yeah, I thought that too the moment that thing came through. But then I was starting to try to piece the pieces together. Like maybe they need to put the Protostar in the middle of this thing, which is how they found it in season 1. And I thought they were going to create a future, like the past, by doing what they have to do in the future, which somehow maybe end up going into the past. The past, so to speak.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, almost.
Yeah. A is there a paradox?
That would be that'd be a bootstrap paradox, I think.
Yeah, I thought we were getting something along those lines, and we maybe we still will. But it was very much the Kelvin thing. I was getting those vibes, and the fact that when they thought they had a chance to get back at it, and somehow the bad guy still had when it was one-upping them. I loved it. I loved it.
As I said, the genuine dread in this episode was fantastic.
Yeah.
Never felt like they could just hand wave away the threat. The stakes felt real throughout. And that's something that's tough to pull off with a kid's show.
Well, that's why I'm saying there are times where the show doesn't feel like a kid's show. Like there are times that there are episodes where it really does, and then there are episodes like these two that really don't feel like a kid's show. They are really like, and it's not even about like the content; it's about just the way it treats its audience. Like
I think for me, it's not really the episodes; it's like moments within episodes. Like this episode had moments within it that felt like the kids' show, but at the same time, there was moments where it didn't, and it was also paying homage to other stuff as well, because when it came to Zero, for instance, there was definitely a Wrath of Khan, Spock saving the day sort of moment I was getting from them. Yeah, exactly. So I was wondering how it was going to pan out. I was wondering if Zero was going to leave the shell that they are in and just be this glowing thing, floating around. And if that was the case,
she can't. Because she could, but then no one could look at her without the visor and and all that other stuff. So it just would complicate things. I like the way they did it. I like the way that she basically made the sacrifice to to save the ship, because she knew that she could survive, maybe not the body, but her essence would survive. And then Jankum was making a new body for her. I just don't understand the one thing I was thinking about during the episode. I don't understand I know obviously they can't look at her when she's not encased in the shell or whatever, or in the body. But why was it so important to Jankum to get the body done that fast? Like, what if she just stayed in the cargo bay, and when they went in, they wore the visors? Majal, because I think wasn't it a Vulcan? Like, was the only one who can really wear the visors and watch it? That's why Spock wore it, or did everyone have to wear them? I don't remember.
That's a good point.
Recall.
I'm not sure it's a good point. I don't know if she still needs to be in some sort of containment to live in this universe or something along those lines.
Maybe. I don't know.
I'm not 100% sure. The only sort of like not silver lining, but it was bittersweet that even though Zero ended up back into a new body, Zero didn't have like a mouth that they could eat food or anything along those lines. They could maybe sense things and touch things, but eating things, no. Or
And
smelling
maybe
things,
they'll work on
no.
that in the future, because I mean they'll probably upgrade the suit. You know, maybe Jankum only had time to work on the sensory feels in the current outfit, and maybe going into the next season, maybe they'll like add more. Ooh, she's gonna what? I don't is Zero, what Zero's a they? So they'll be just walking around and like, you know, Krang from Ninja Turtles, like, you know, with, you know,
Shredder. I need food, Shredder.
Welcome,
there you go.
Daniel Vance. I did feel like this was very much a Voyager reunion with Chakotay and Janeway back together again on Voyager. Ironically, even if it's a different one, doctors in the sick bay. You know, you had a decent portion of the original team there as well, which was pretty cool.
I do like the fact that they are, and speaking of, you know, like a Voyager reunion, I do appreciate the fact that they are addressing the fact that there's not like Starfleet is spread too thin. You know, they're acknowledging that, and that's why there's like no help, quote unquote. So I think, was it last week we were talking about like there's no ships in the sector, or the closest, I can't remember what it was, but like we were talking about, you know, things were spread to, or maybe we were talking about a different scenario from a different Trek. But I just, you know, the whole like, no, then there's no one, like there's no ships in the sector, or no, they said the quadrant. That's right. You're the only ship in the quadrant. And we were kind of like, you mean like the Beta Quadrant? Like there's no ships in the Beta Quadrant? Because that's a pretty big quadrant. That's 1/4 of the galaxy.
Well, you mentioned the dread when they were looking for backup, and then Jellicoe tells Janeway it's going to take days until somebody comes along. Like, what the fuck?
But that's the thing that
It's accurately portraying the scale and size of the Federation and not making it seem like they can just get where they're going instantly.
Yeah.
No,
It's a
I
gripe that we
agree.
have consistently, and they avoided that pratfall, and I was very pleased with the show for doing so.
Yeah, because I mean, I think we figured it out, and it would take several years to completely go. Is it years to go, or months to go across the entire Federation from side to side? I think, you know. So,
And and I'm glad they mentioned it. In a way, I'm kind of glad that like Starfleet is a little bit depleted when it comes to ships, because I think probably since the Dominion War, you know, it's just not been that great.
well, they even said that, I mean, they even talked about the Romulan relocation effort, and I'm glad they're using in-universe reasons that aren't pivotal to this show, that are big events that, you know, that set this up, because it makes sense. It makes the universe feel bigger. It makes the universe feel connected. And I know, Zam, we've always talked about that, is that, you know, that's kind of what some of the Trek is missing, is some of that little connected tissue, not like the big stuff. We don't need like all the big crossover connection, but the little connective tissue that makes sense in canon.
Yeah, for sure. And exactly the Dominion, the Borg, they've really had their way. I'm not sure if there's any other factions as well. I'm sure there is. I'm sure there are. And when I think of the Dominion, I'm throwing all those factions in there, like the Cardassians and everyone else. So and then obviously the Borg, who are totally different, but still, if there's anybody else, you can maybe even the Klingons at times. You know, who knows? But yeah, they've definitely made Starfleet a little bit depleted.
Well, and that's the thing, is that's the thing to be said, is that the one issue with the Federation is that, yeah, if they keep expanding at the rate that they are, what, you know, how, you know, they're going to spread themselves too thin.
I always wondered though, like they are part of the United Federation of Planets. Starfleet is, yeah. You never see ships from other factions as part of that federation, if you know what I mean. It's always Starfleet looking ships.
We actually talked about this more a little bit yesterday on the Axonar After Dark. The reason why they do that is because most of the races are pulling their resources together into one combined unit. Now, most races do have their own own militia, like their own militia of ships that guard their home systems, or deal with sensitive matters of that race. Like if there's a Vulcan ambassador going somewhere, you usually see a Vulcan transport, or an Andorian. You see an Andorian transport. They kind of use the example yesterday because I asked that exact same question. They talk about tanks. So with the technology that like space travel is space travel, and it's like, so like the common ships is like tanks. Everybody has their own. Everybody, it's very easy technology to master. So like general ships, like not combat ships or exploration ships. Starfleet specializes in the exploration part of it, and even the military portion of it, and that's where they put the bulk of those resources. So like, yeah, you do have your like small militias and your transports and all that, but they really focus on Starfleet vessels to protect the Federation, even though they say they're just explorers. Those ships are armed to the teeth. We all know they are.
It's the Job Corps with guns.
Yeah. And I mean, Mage, you being a history buff, I mean, you might be able to explain a little bit better than I can, but
it's equivalent. I think of as Starfleet as like kind of the United Nations standing army equivalent to our modern times. And, you've got smaller nations still, even the Japanese have this small self-defense force. You've got So even though they can't have a huge normal military, there's still a small reserve unit, so to speak. And that would be the case with the member worlds of the Federation. But I think that the tanks analogy is a really good one.
Alec Peters who brought that up. I think it was Alec who brought that up yesterday about the tanks. And I'm like, that's actually really good. That makes a lot of sense.
No, you explained it very well. I can't add anything cogent to that.
As I said, I can't take credit for it. We literally talked about it yesterday. Anyway.
All right. So, Ascension. How do we feel about her as a villain? Do we think that she's a good villain, or is she just there to do evil stuff?
For me, I feel like she's forgettable, in my opinion, so far. Maybe something happens in the next couple episodes that kind of beefs her up a bit, but she's kind of forgettable at this point for me.
Yeah, other than like the hidden entity and the betrayal thing, and that's all from last season, really. I don't feel they've evolved the character much this season.
Well, this is like the problem with the storytelling of this particular series, because it's been like 2/3 of it was, the return of Chakotay, pretty much, and now we got him back, and like, I remember this person who, and like
we haven't really seen much of her since episode 3 or 4.
Yeah, and she was a secret agent in season 1. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so, like, it's very forgettable, and you have to remind yourself what this person's goal is and all of that. So, unfortunately, villains can be something that can not be done right, and I think this is the case as well. But once again, we have a lack of time, so she could have been part of subplots if we had more time in each episode. Then we could come back to her here and there, but that hasn't been the case.
Yeah, after Gwen got off of Solus, isn't that what it's called?
Solemn.
Ever since she got off of Solemn, Ascension and that the entire planet like has just been nothing. Like there's no subplots with her. There's no. I mean, I almost kind of wish Gwen would have remained on Solemn, just to kind of like keep that story of her and Ascension's rivalry keep going, or at least, and I hate maybe doing this, but splitting the team up, like keep maybe like rok-tauk and somebody else on, you know, Solom, and then have the rest of the crew with Voyager in the past, you know, and the Infinity in the past, and then they come back together like this episode to when everything kind of culminates into this. Hey, here's this big threat now that's here, and now we're bringing the teams back together to fight it.
Yeah, I agree, but they split the team up this time around, in three ways.
Well, I meant like keep one team on Solom doing that subplot, and then one team with Crusher. I think was more kind of my thought.
I'm glad you mentioned Wesley, because he was somehow he was somehow captured, and the information that he holds within him was used to go against the Voyager and the Protostar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like knowing their fate.
Ascensia's used his powers to create little pockets of fast-moving time and been able to militarize Solom incredibly quickly.
Mm-hmm. I thought I was thinking about it. I felt bad for people that was in there, but I'm like, oh no, they're probably using automation. Like, you know, like, so it's not, you know, because so they're because I was thinking, oh man, people are gonna get old so quick, but then time's not really passing that fast for them out in the real world. And I'm like, man, they're just gonna like die in like 15 minutes. But I'm like, oh no, they're probably using automation and robots, because they got the General Grievous looking robots and everything, so they got automation. Just wanted, before we move on from Ascensia, unless we were going to continue, but Dana Van says, say what you will about Ascensia. Jami's voice is just delightful. I don't mind the voice actor. I think she does a great job. It's just she needs more to do.
Agreed.
Sorry, a quick thing. You know, Gwen's sort of time thing is on the outside of her clothes, and it's around her arm. So my only thing is, like, how do you bathe? Like, how do you get changed or undressed if it's outside your clothes? If you know what I mean. But it's not a big deal.
Not important.
Yeah. So she hasn't been able to bathe this entire time. She just
Zam's asking the right question. Man, those dreads are probably greasy.
They worn the same clothes for fuck knows how long, you know, like.
Yeah, but it's Starfleet clothes, so it's like they probably self-clean. It's like got some kind of like shifting quasi matter that like cleans itself over time or something. I don't know.
Sonic washing machine. I don't know, but Sam's point remains: how the hell does she get out of it? That's a good question, and I hadn't thought about that detail. But Zam asking the important questions.
Yeah, that's right, the important questions.
But so yeah, the big thing to me this week was the Wesley going down with the base was a fake out. He was captured.
And we knew he wasn't gone.
We knew he wasn't gone. They're not going to lose somebody that important and that's been wanted back by the fans for so long. After just that one little bit of use, they're going to make better use of that character.
Was it season 2 that they used him?
Yeah, it was season 2.
It's really funny, though, because like he did that recruiting in Picard, but I guess technically this is before Picard season 2, right? Or no, that was in 20... He recruited her in 2025, right? The year of the year of the show, not in the
whatever
future.
That year is. I mean, it's, just that period.
Yeah. So I agree with Daniel Vance. There was actually, as I said, I was wondering if Zero was going to make it out. Majel, I kind of figured was going to make it. Zero, on the other hand, I was wondering if something was going to happen to Zero. Maybe not die, but like Zam was saying, like, you know, can she exist on this plane of existence without a body? Maybe not. I thought they could, but maybe they can't. You know, maybe. Go ahead, Zam.
I was the polar opposite. Actually, I thought Zero was going to definitely live. Majel, because she's like a newish character, a bit secondary-ish. I thought she was going to possibly die, or something along those particular lines.
I thought that Majel was just going to, like, if that were the case, Majel would kind of replace Zero in the party. You know what I mean? Like, but
Zero has a uniqueness about her, which I think is too important to to put to bed just yet whilst Majel, she's a Vulcan, which is like we've seen Vulcans in every form of Star Trek. So yeah.
I was excited when Nova Squadron pulled off the maneuver, destroying the enemy ship. Then I remembered Wesley was on board. Wesley wasn't on board. He was on Ascensia's. Where was she at? Was she on the planet or was she on a ship nearby or something? I try not.
It seemed like she was controlling it remotely and having the robot do most of it. So I took it as Ascensia is on the planet, ruling with an iron fist, abusing Wesley and torturing him for tech.
I do. Speaking of the General Grievous, I'm just going to call him General Grievous. Speaking of that, I do love the fact that when Janeway came on the screen and made that big proclamation to him, that if you do this, you're declaring war, and he's just like acknowledged and turned off the screen. I'm like, oh, that's a way to get Janeway's blood boiling. You don't mess with Captain Coffee.
No, don't hang up on Captain Coffee.
I'm excited when Nova Squadron pulled off the maneuver, destroying the enemy ship. Then I remember Wesley was on board. Wesley, yeah, exactly. I know you mentioned this earlier, but yeah, I was thinking the same thing too. Like, you can't kill him off.
No, I knew I figured. I think there was something that made me think he wasn't that they weren't on the ship.
See, I always thought they were all on the ship, but the ship's so fucking huge that they have like holographic projectors of themselves, which is what we saw. I mean,
General Grievous was the one actually on the ship controlling it. He had all those wires hooked up to the back of him.
So I got the impression it was the one robot controlling the entire operation, but taking orders from Ascensia from the planet.
Yeah. It was a very unique couple of episodes. It felt very Star Warsy at times, but at the same time, it felt nostalgic regarding some of the and fan servicey regarding it resembling previous Star Trek shows and movies. So,
I mean, these are just a pair of good episodes. I mean, going from the dimensional shifting episode last week with the Mirror Universe, and I know I had to dip out during that one, but that was a good episode. And now these two episodes, I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, this is getting good. As I said, Yeah, I mean, I look, great. I was not a fan of season 1. I didn't hate it, but I didn't really enjoy it all that much. I gotta say, season 2 is really turning it around a lot for me. As I said, some people like season 1. Okay, great. Hey, I'm glad you guys liked it. But for me, season 2 is just really knocking it out of the park for me. Even the filler is very serviceable, and some of it's really good.
Yeah, I'm enjoying this season too, and I thought the pacing of these last 2 episodes was really great. It was edge of your seat stuff, and having the Protostar and Voyager, side by side battling it out was a nice touch as well. And then the little ships too, and everything, everyone playing their part. The funny thing is, I think the one person who's kind of been a bit of a fifth wheel this season, and even though they've had a moment or two, is Murph. He.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not really been a fan of Murph regardless. He was cute as the tag along pet, but now that he's got a job and he's got legs, it's kind of like
He's even been replaced as the tag along pet. They've got Bribble now for that. It's
I know, right?
Boom and rok-tauk's pockets.
Rock
saying whoopsie.
It was Murph feels like he has purpose now. Like before, he was this odd entity, but now there's purpose to Murph. So they got the new pet, which is Sonic the Hedgehog and all of that. Yeah,
gotta sell more toys.
If they do.
They didn't roll out Moopsie toys early enough. They got bootlegs came out hella quick. Paramount is not on top of their merchandising, for sure.
No, Disney they are not. Like the Star Wars, man, if something new and cute debuts on a Star Wars show, it's out. There's a Funko Pop and there's a plushie. That
in the warehouse already ready to go.
Yeah, exactly.
Baby Yoda,
And
man, do you know how much money they made when Baby Yoda debuted? Like literally the first week, they like sold
they're
hundreds of
printing
thousands
money.
of Baby Yoda things, and it was on the shelves, but within a couple months, I think, like
I
at
wonder if
Target
there's
and stuff like that.
any Bazils you could buy from Acolyte. That's the only cutesy thing I remember.
Well, that's probably why it didn't succeed, is because there wasn't really any cutesy things. Like,
Or maybe you sure it wasn't the power of one, the power of two, the power of many? Because for
no,
me, that's why they succeed. Because that was cringe as fuck.
yeah, no, you got stuck on that. That was what, episode 3?
Oh god,
You-
yeah, that killed it for me.
Listen,
Man.
I thought I was going to hate the show after episode 1 because of what they did with Carrie Ann Moss, but as I said, the series redeemed itself to me. Not made it good, but it definitely wasn't.
I just want to bring up one thing. Basil knew about the Sith and never told the fucking Jedi Order.
I wouldn't either. Bunch of cultists.
Just so you know,
They're hypocrites. The Jedi.
Yeah, they are hypocrites. Basil knows. Basil's the real hero.
You're upset by the Acolyte cancellation. The only reason I'm upset by it is that they won't continue the story of Darth Plagueis. Have you seen that meme where Palpatine goes, "Have you heard about the story of Darth Plagueis the Wise?" And Anakin goes, "No, they cancelled the Acolyte." And like, it's just like, it's like,
Yeah, as I said, I mean, kind of roping it back to Trek though. It's like we were talking about it yesterday, like but it's like any Star Trek. The first season of any Star Trek is always not that great. There's very few Star Trek series, except for maybe Lower Decks. Some people say Prodigy. I disagree, but what's another one that started off with a bang? Like that was really good. Like there's not many Star Trek, maybe Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
That started off with these great first seasons. You know what I mean? Like that could have been the Acolyte. The Acolyte could have been like, and I get why the Acolyte was kind of a short series, because you needed, in the way that series was formatted, you needed everybody to die in order for things to kind of line up. You know what I mean? Like, so
I agree to a degree, because what these sort of shows are doing is that they are basically part of a giant jigsaw puzzle, and so that's how I look at it. Like, even if it's the first season, like it still needs to hold its own by being a piece in this puzzle. Like, okay, this is where this piece belongs because it's just before the prequel series and all of that, and it needs to make sense, and that's how I look at it. Yeah,
have its complete outline, and then
Yeah.
with further seasons, it can fill in those gaps within itself.
But that's why I
Yeah.
like the Acolyte, because it was taking place like 100 years before the
100 years
before the rise of the Sith. That's why I was like, I can get behind this because we've got so much to play with. Yeah, yes, I know that there will be some, but it's almost like TOS to the next generation. We're just going backwards. Like there's still like a lot you can play with in that 100-year gap. Like you could have had like this end with all the people who knew about the Sith dying, and then you could still focus on the Acolyte and the Sith Lord in season 2, and like shift gears where you're focusing on them more than you're focusing on the Jedi. But then you introduce new Jedi characters in the next one. Yeah, sorry, Lord Donkey, spoilers, but the show's been canceled. So if you haven't watched it yet, you're the reason.
I heard it's not only been cancelled, but I heard it's been removed.
No, has it?
Yeah. Like
I'm checking that. Hold on.
Me too. Actually, now you mention it, I'm going to check as well.
That's insane if they've already removed it. That's a lot of money going down the shitter.
Well, they couldn't sell any toys out of it, so they thought, "Fuck it, we can get rid of it."
Yeah, that is probably true.
They just deleted it off the hard drive,
right,
on the server. Just do it over. We can. I mean, they've got the money; they can dump it into another show. They've got that Disney money.
That's right. Speaking of Disney money,
they're still there at the moment.
Yeah.
Still there. Okay, so the removal was just a rumor. No, so we talked about Dal and Nova Squadron. We talked a little bit about Zero's noble sacrifice and the Zero's body plot from these episodes.
That weapon, by the way, was really unique.
The Incursor?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
And
kind of the Borg have kind of used similar technology, but you're right. Like it's definitely a different feel to it. But the Borg have used very similar technology.
And that's the species. I think Gwen species. They're using time in a way to develop shit. So they're making. I forgot they were making something, but the thing that they're making is one particular time. But outside of that bubble of what where it's being made, it's faster. So 3 months feels like 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of shit gets done very quickly.
Yeah, it's an incredible like concept of way to militarize time technology, and that seems to be a core with the solemn tech is weaponizing time manipulation.
Yeah.
That's the Incursor did that itself. I thought it was a neat concept to have it just cause an aging field, and because it affects the materials as well as the biological organisms, so kind of a two-pronged assault instead of just destroying one or the other.
And that Andorian's fucked, isn't he? Like he's
no. Doctor said he could reverse it.
Yeah, just some sort of gene therapy.
Yeah, that's their answer to everything. Gene therapy.
Yeah.
What's that? You lost an eyeball. Gene therapy.
Yeah, Rings of Power, Terminator Zero next week. So yeah, Rings of Power about fucking time. We need a show. To come for us to start reviewing. And by the way, keep an eye out. I've already done it. It'll be posting soon. My Johnny English trilogy review.
Are you guys doing World's Gone Insane tomorrow? Do you know?
I can't do it tomorrow, but I do want to get back on it.
Well, no, I'm just saying we can release it tomorrow if you're not doing World's Gone Insane. So.
Yeah, if you want to, yeah. But Johnny English 4 is coming out soon.
Me and Mage are going to do a 12-hour Dragon Ball discussion stream. That's what we're going to do.
Hell yeah. Nice. Subscribe and smash the bell icon so you don't miss that.
Yeah. And next Saturday, Bash at the beach, or Bash at Berlin. What the fuck? Yeah. Bash at Berlin. We'll be doing a watch along of that.
So now we've already done all the end of video plugs. Anything else we want to talk about with these episodes? I think Mage probably got some more notes.
I was actually running through my notes, and I think that's about it. That's all I have down. We talked about Commander Tysus. I mean, the Janeway and Chakotay bits are just really tiny. But
I got one thing.
Yeah, go for it.
It wasn't it nice to see hologram Janeway finally communicate with regular Janeway?
That was fun. Janeway to Janeway. I love like that little hesitation and uncertainty in her voice. Mulgrew just knocked that delivery of that line out of the park.
Yeah, but that's another part where it felt very kiddish. You know what I mean? Like if the holograms, like, I don't think a hologram would take the time to like be confused about something like that, but it is what it just felt cringe to me, but it's okay. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Okay. While Cheeto puts up the poll,
I am
Jankum. He had some character moments this week where he kind of curbed that him and curbed his attitude long enough to like be very proper and formal to Chakotay in that one bit. Zam, you're our resident Jankum Pog fan. How did you feel about him this week?
I just felt that all my me noticing his character arc throughout this season, it paid off. Well, I wouldn't say necessarily paid off, but I felt it felt warranted because it was more to do with things that with Zero. Like she wanted Jacob to make their body for them, because of who he is and what he knows and all of that. And he's very capable, and I like those bits, and I think he's a very important member of the team because he's very dynamic when it comes to his initiative of engineering. The guy built a bloody time machine, for Christ's sake. So
Yeah, I think his character development's been more subtle, which I appreciate more than Dal's, which is like just very dynamic and slow moving. Whereas Jenkins is more subtle and not in your face. Like Dal's like he needs to have development, otherwise he's just still going to be insufferable. Which this episode was a great step in the right direction.
Jacob is not confrontational like he was in season 1.
Mm-hmm.
He's very much a team player now, and yeah. The only thing, my only issue with him still is like having to hit things to make it work. But other than that, I like where he's going. The balance of him is just right. He believes in himself, but he's not overly cocky. And do we like Dahl yet? Yeah, he's all right. I thought this season, I thought last couple of episodes he's been pretty good.
Yeah, I can't say I like him, but definitely this episode was a big step in the right direction. If they keep this up going into the end of the season, I'll be happy. But as we've all said, or we said earlier in this review, and I don't know if you were here at that point, Daniel Vance, is that if they can just as easily walk this back next episode. You know what I mean? Like everything that they did this episode with Dal, they have a history of walking it back with him in the next episode. So if they keep up the progression, I'm happy.
Actually, there's one person we don't really speak about how we feel about, or how do you guys feel about Gwen?
You mean Chakotay's new number 1?
Yeah.
Sorry, just had to pat myself on the back. Called it.
Yeah.
No, I think Gwen's a very serviceable character. She adds a little bit of that calm-headedness to a group of otherwise pretty impulsive kids.
Yeah.
I feel like they need kind of that balance, but
She's
she never feels she's the big sister, but she never feels like that nanny type character, that like nursemaid type character. They almost let rok-tauk have that kind of role when they feel like they need the nursemaid type character going on in any sort of situation. But I'm a big fan of Gwen. Feel like her voice actress does a really good job.
Mm-hmm.
Cheats. You okay with Gwen as well? Like, how do you feel? And everyone talks about Dahl and stuff like that, but I think Gwen kind of goes under the radar at times.
I think she does, but I think that's kind of the purpose. Almost like I think that she's supposed to be the subtle leader, whereas Dahl's supposed to be the obnoxious leader, and that's why I think the character arc is going the way it is where we saw earlier in the season in that image where Dahl basically gives over captainship over to Gwen, and that's why I think, and I mean, I don't know if it's actually going to happen since Dahl saw that, but I see that's where that angle is going.
Yeah.
No, I think that's the direction they're moving in as well, and hopefully they don't walk back the character development that they have been known to do it with Dahl. So
it's really only with Dahl, because a lot of the characters they've done good progression with rok-tauk, Jankum, Gwen,
Zero.
Like they've just Dahl's the only one that they just can't seem to nail down.
Maybe Murph as well to a degree. I mean, he's evolved, but like I said, he's just not this weirdo thing. You feel like he's part of the team now. Like the guys like bloody flying the ship, for fuck's sake. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
that was the one part that made me cringe.
How did the episode end? I kind of forgotten. The final episode, the second episode.
Basically, Starfleet has recognized all of their hard work in this endeavor, and now they are the ones, because originally they were going to send a delegation
off of it.
Yeah, they were pulling them off of the Solemn thing because they were too close, and getting the Prodigy back in time. But
now they're letting them take point on it just because they're the only ones there. I guess the threat of war changes things.
I guess.
By the way,
because originally they were going to take the Protostar back to Earth. Now the question is, did Wesley tell Dal not to look at his own future, knowing Dal would probably? I mean, that would probably be its own, again, self-fulfilling prophecy.
Sage, wise Wesley.
Another thing as well, like the fact is that they have, like, they still believe that there's a paradox happening and all of that shit. and they have to somehow do something with the Protostar. But the point is that as long as they're still around, then whatever happens with the Protostar is inevitable. If you know what I mean, it doesn't matter what direction they go or choose to go. It's inevitable that the Protostar will have to end up in its place, or they'd be fucked.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, am I
Mhm.
right from that particular moment?
Yeah. No, they need to find a way to get the Protostar to Taslamore or something like that, whatever it's called, that planet where they were all, where the Protostar was in episode 1 of season 1. Because if they don't do that, then yes, the paradox will continue, and it will continue unraveling the timeline or whatever.
But the
We didn't
planet
see
was
any
that,
of the time squids this week either.
no, but
No, no loom.
the planet was the giant spaceship that came through that vortex. Yeah.
The planet?
No, I mean like the mining planet or wherever where the Protostar ended up. It was that giant spaceship that came through. The
No,
one controlled
it
by
was
Janeway
I thought it was an actual planet in episode 1.
It's an actual planet. Taslamora is.
Yeah.
Rev 1 is just a huge ship, is a huge solemn style ship, I think. Like one part ship, one part floating base,
One part Death Star.
Yeah, okay,
Death Star that's very much copying the Flying Fortress or the Hidden Fortress from Kurosawa.
And Lord Donkey, we are not the finest because we are missing one of our core 4 members right now. And although we are serviceable, we are missing our jackass, our donkey.
I'm still waiting for Gwen's dad to have that heel turn to turn him into an evil bastard.
He's probably good. I would assume that's coming in the next couple episodes. I mean, we got 4 episodes left.
Oh yeah.
Reveal that the message was intended to give her the location the entire time or something. Have a reveal heel turn, or do an actual turn where he does decide to betray them.
I mean, maybe he turned while on that all those episodes since they've seen him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I mean, look, he could be playing an act, but I'm not sure. I'm going to go with the fact that he is genuinely this good guy who somehow becomes a bad guy. But he obviously loves Gwen, if that's the case, if he is a good guy, and knows that it's his daughter. So something must happen for him to go down this dark path. Maybe he thinks Gwen is killed, but I do believe Gwen's not his actual daughter. It's his clone, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Gwen is a clone of him, right?
Yeah, of Palpatine. Yeah. So anyway, I'm waiting for the inevitable to happen. And I'm hoping like this show can put all those pieces together, because it should do, theoretically should do, but he's waiting to see how it pans out.
Very good. Yeah, we shall see. Only time will tell.
4 episodes left. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah,
4 episodes left.
2 weeks of us reviewing it 2 episodes at a time here on NerdTube.
Wow, it's gone quite quick, hasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It has, quicker than I thought it would.
Yeah,
You're on
when you're having fun.
8. This is week 8. So 9 and 9 and 10, week 10.
Well,
the only other problem I see is that we've got Lord of the Rings coming out next week. So me and Zam, if we're doing it, we're gonna be pulling double duty throughout the week.
Ouch.
Yeah, I don't mind. Just for a couple of weeks, it'll be all right.
Yeah, it's like 2 weeks. And then Lower Decks is back in 60. I was looking earlier, 63 days. So, right? It's bittersweet because it's yay, I want it to come back. No, I don't want it to end.
Because if it comes back, it has to end.
Yeah.
That makes me a sad mage.
There's a show on Netflix called I forgot what the name is, but basically it's about these two people, a guy and a girl, and from the guy's perspective, his life looks like a sitcom, like a television sitcom, but from the girl's perspective, their life looks like a bleak, dark drama, and they merge the two together, like the sitcom and the drama. I forgot what it's called, but I've heard it's really good and it's on Netflix. And I want to watch that. I really want to watch that now. It's got me very intrigued. It's a very unique sort of style of show. Yeah,
that's an interesting premise for sure.
yeah,
I might have to check that out.
yeah,
Until then, do you guys want to mark these episodes?
yeah. I'm gonna give them both an 8.
Very nice. Cheeto?
I'm going to follow up my mark from last week's Mirror episode, and I'm going to also give these 2 episodes a cumulative 9. I really enjoyed these episodes.
Very nice. And I'm also going to give Ascension Part 1 and 2 a 9. I didn't find myself looking what time it was. They were over before I even realized it. Pacing is always something that I kind of gripe about with this show, but I've got 0 complaints about pacing this week for these 2 installments. So that's been our review of Star Trek Prodigy episodes 15 and 16. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank my co-host Zam and Cheeto.
Thank you.
If you've enjoyed what you've seen, please subscribe to NerdTube. We're the greatest channel that you maybe sort of kind of never heard of. Until next time, take care, live long and prosper.
Bye-bye.